Although the doctrine Sri Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi taught never varied, the ways of teaching varies according to the character and understanding of the questioner. During the years on the hill, records were kept of the experiences of some of the devotees. Shiv Prakashan Pillai was one of the intellectuals among the devotees. He had taken philosophy at the university and had already pondered over the mysteries of being. In 1900, he was appointed to a post in the revenue department in South Arcot district. 2 years later, his work took him to Tiruvannamalai, and he heard of the young Swami on the hill. He was captivated at the very first visit and became a devotee. He put 14 questions, and since the Swami was still maintaining silence, both questions and answers were in writing. The answers to the last question was written by the Swami on a slate and immediately copied out by Shiv Prakashan Pillai. The other 13 were written out later from memory but checked by Sri Bhagwan before being published. S.P. Swami, who am I and how is salvation to be attained? Bhagwan said, by incessant inward inquiry, who am I? You will know yourself and thereby attain salvation. SP question, who am I? Bhagwan said, the real I or self is not the body, nor any of the five senses, nor the sense objects, nor the organs of action, nor the prana, breath or vital force, nor the mind, nor even the deep sleep state where there is no cognizance of these. SP, if I am none of these, what else I am? Bhagwan said, after rejecting each of these and saying, this I am not, that which alone remains is the I, and that is consciousness. SP, what is the nature of that consciousness? Bhagwan said, it is Sat Chit Ananda, being consciousness, bliss, in which there is not even the slightest trace of the I thought. This is also called Mauna, silence, or Atma Self. That is the only thing that is. If the trinity of world, ego, and God are considered as separate entities, they are mere illusions like the appearance of silver in mother of pearl. God, ego, and world are really Shiva Swarupa, the form of Shiva, or Atma Swarupa, the form of the spirit. SP, how are we to realize that real? Bhagwan said, when the thing seen disappear, the true nature of the seer or subject appears. SP, is it not possible to realize that while still seeing external things? Bhagwan said, no, because the seer and the seen are like the rope and the appearance of a serpent therein. Until you get rid of the appearance of a serpent, you cannot see that what exists in only the rope. SP, when will external objects vanish? Bhagwan said, if the mind, which is the cause of all thoughts and activities, vanishes, external objects will also vanish. SP, what is the nature of the mind? Bhagwan said, the mind is only thoughts. It is a form of energy. It manifests itself as the world. When the mind sinks into the self, then the self is realized. When the mind issues forth, the world appears and the self is not realized. SP, how will the mind vanish? Only through the inquiry, who am I? Through this inquiry also is a mental operation. It destroys all mental operations, including itself, just as the stick with which the funeral pyre is stirred, is itself reduced to ashes after the pyre and corpses have been burned. Only then comes realization of the self. The I thought is destroyed, breath of the other signs of vitality subside, the ego and the prana, breath or vital force, have a common source. Whatever you do, do without egoism, that is, without the feeling I am doing this. When a man reaches that state, even his own wife will appear to him as the universal mother. True bhakti, devotion, is surrender of the ego to the self. SP, are there no other ways of destroying the mind? Bhagwan said there is no other adequate method except self inquiry. If the mind is lulled by other means, it stays quiet for a little and then springs up again and resumes its former activity. SP, but when will all the instincts and tendencies, vasanas, such as that to self preservation, be subdued in us? Bhagwan said, the more you withdraw into the self, the more these tendencies wither and finally they drop off. SP, is it really possible to root out all these tendencies that have soaked into our minds through many births? Bhagwan said, never yield room in your mind for such doubts, but dive into the self with firm resolve. If the mind is constantly directed to the self, but this inquiry, it is eventually dissolved and transformed into the self. When you feel any doubt, do not try to elucidate it, but to know who is it to whom the doubts occurs. SP, how long should one go on with this inquiry? Bhagwan said, as long as there is the least trace of impulses in your mind to cause thoughts, so long as the enemy occupy a citadel, they will keep on making sorties. If you kill each one as he comes out, the citadel will fall to you in the end. Similarly, each time a thought rears its head, crush it with this inquiry. To crush out all thoughts at their source is called vairagya, this compassion. So, vichara, self inquiry, continues to be necessary until the self is realized. What is required is continuous and uninterrupted remembrance of the self. SP, is it not this world and what takes place there in the result of God's will? And if so, why should God will thus? Bhagwan said, God has no purpose. He is not bound by any action. The world's activities cannot affect him. Take the analogy of the sun. The sun rises without desire, purpose, or effort, but as soon as it rises, numerous activities take place on the earth. The lens placed in its rays produces fire in its focus. The lotus bird opens, water evaporates, and every living creature enters upon activity, maintains it, and finally drops it. But the sun is not affected by any such activity, as it merely acts according to its nature by fixed laws without any purpose and is only a witness. So it is with God. Or take the analogy of space or ether. Earth, water, fire, and air are all in it and have their modifications in it. Yet none of these affects ether or space. It is the same with God. God has no desire or purpose in his acts of creation, maintenance, destruction, withdrawal, and salvation to which beings are subjected. As the beings reap the fruit of their actions in accordance with his laws, the responsibilities is theirs, not God's. God is not bound by any action. Sri Bhagwan's saying, that is the true nature of him who sees appears only when the thing seen disappear in is not to be taken literally as stipulating unawareness of the physical world. That world be a state of formless trance and nirvikalpa samadhi. What is meant is that they cease to appear real and are seen as mere forms assumed by the self. This is made clear by the example of the rope and the serpent that follows. It is a traditional example used also by Sri Shankara. A man sees a coiled rope in the dusk and mistakes it for a serpent and is therefore frightened. When day dawns, he sees that it was only a rope and this his fear was groundless. The reality of being is the robe, the illusion of a serpent that frightened him is the objective world. The statement that to crush out thoughts at their source is vairagya also requires elucidation. The meaning of vairagya is dispassion, detachment, equanimity. Shiva Prakashan Pillai's question when the instincts and latent tendencies in a man could be subdued shows that it was Vairagya that he felt the need to strive after. But Shri Bhagwan was in effect telling him that vichara or self inquiry is the shortest road to Vairagya. Passion and detachment are in the mind, therefore, when the mind is controlled, they are subdued, and that is Vairagya.